I am 60 now, and the most humbling realization is this: the body was always trying to teach me, but I spent 30 years refusing to listen. I chased shortcuts, pills, trends, and delays, assuming time would forgive my neglect. Biology does not forgive. It only records. Every habit leaves a mark, every delay compounds interest, and every mistake whispers a lesson long before it starts to shout as pain, fatigue, or disease. For many years, I believed health could be engineered through accumulation, that taking 100 vitamins a day was a sign of discipline and responsibility rather than misunderstanding. It felt scientific, even sophisticated, as if more input would naturally create a stronger output. But the human body does not operate on volume. It operates on balance. Nutrients are not independent tools but biochemical signals that must arrive at the right place, in the right form, at the right time. When I overwhelmed my system with supplements, I wasn't nourishing it. I was forcing it to manage excess. Absorption is limited by transporters in the gut, and once those pathways are saturated, the body simply excretes what it cannot use, or diverts it into metabolic storage that offers no benefit. Worse, certain vitamins compete with each other for uptake, meaning excess of one can quietly create deficiency in another. A paradox I never considered while counting capsules. The liver and kidneys became silent custodians of my good intentions, filtering, neutralizing, and discarding what I assumed was helping me thrive. Instead of supporting cellular repair, excessive supplementation increased oxidative stress and metabolic workload. Real nutrition, I learned too late, begins with food because whole foods deliver vitamins within a matrix of enzymes, fiber, minerals, and phytonutrients that guide their proper use. Science shows us that nutrients behave differently when isolated, stripped of context, and consumed without physiological demand. The body is selective, not grateful, and it responds to necessity, not abundance. When vitamins are taken without deficiency, movement, or metabolic purpose, they become noise rather than instruction. What I once called proactive health was actually a misunderstanding of how elegantly conservative human biology truly is, how it prioritizes efficiency over excess, and how it rewards respect far more than force. For a long time, I treated colon detoxes as a reset button, a way to erase weeks or years of careless eating with a single aggressive intervention. The idea was seductive, suggesting that the body accumulates waste like debris in a neglected machine, waiting to be flushed clean. Biology tells a different story. The colon is not a stagnant storage site. It is a living ecosystem, densely populated by trillions of microorganisms that regulate immunity, metabolism, and even neurological signaling. When I repeatedly disrupted that environment with detox protocols, I wasn't removing toxins, I was dismantling stability. The body already possesses a highly evolved detoxification system centered in the liver, kidneys, lungs, and gut, working continuously without the need for external force. Artificial cleansing interferes with peristalsis, electrolyte balance, and microbial diversity, weakening the gut's ability to regulate itself. Over time, reliance on detox methods teaches the bowel to forget its own rhythm, reducing natural motility and increasing dependence. The irony is that what feels cleansing in the short term often creates fragility in the long term. Science shows that a healthy colon thrives on regular input of fiber, fermented foods, and hydration, not periodic elimination rituals. Fiber feeds beneficial bacteria, producing short-chain fatty acids that reduce inflammation and protect the intestinal lining. Water supports stool formation and transit, allowing waste to exit efficiently without trauma. I misunderstood cleanliness as absence rather than function. True gut health is not about emptiness, but harmony. When the microbiome is supported, it neutralizes harmful compounds, reinforces the gut barrier, and communicates with the immune system in a balanced, measured way. The colon does not ask to be purified. It asks to be supported daily. When I finally understood this, detox stopped being an event and became a quiet, ongoing biological process driven by nourishment, rhythm, and respect for the intelligence already built into the human body. For most of my life, healthy eating lived in the future, scheduled for a time when work slowed down, stress reduced, or motivation felt more natural. I treated nutrition as a lifestyle upgrade rather than a biological requirement, assuming my body would patiently wait for me to get serious. But metabolism does not operate on intention. It responds to repetition. Every meal initiates a cascade of hormonal signals that influence blood sugar, inflammation, cellular repair, and fat storage in real time. When I delayed healthy eating, I was not standing still. I was actively reinforcing metabolic patterns that became harder to reverse with age. Insulin sensitivity declines not suddenly, but gradually, shaped by thousands of ordinary meals that teach cells how to respond to energy. Food is information before it is fuel. Highly processed meals speak the language of stress, telling the body to store, defend, and brace for scarcity, even in abundance. Whole foods, in contrast, communicate safety and predictability, allowing systems to repair rather than react. I misunderstood the cost of postponement, believing damage only occurs at extremes, while science shows that chronic low-grade inflammation builds quietly through consistent dietary signals. By the time symptoms appear, the process has already been rehearsed for years. The body adapts faithfully to whatever environment it is given, even when that environment is harmful. Delaying healthy eating trained my physiology to function in survival mode, prioritizing short-term energy over long-term resilience. Reversing that pattern required far more effort than establishing it would have in the first place. I learned that there is no neutral eating, no harmless delay. Each meal either supports mitochondrial efficiency, gut integrity, and hormonal balance, or it nudges the system toward dysfunction. Time does not soften nutritional mistakes, it amplifies them. And biology remembers every pattern we repeatedly teach it. When the pain in my right shoulder began, I treated it as an isolated flaw, a mechanical issue that could be stretched, injected, or ignored until it either resolved or demanded intervention. I never thought to question my nutrition, sleep, or systemic inflammation, because pain feels local even when its origins are not. The body, however, functions as an integrated system. Connective tissue, muscle fibers, and joint capsules rely on continuous repair. And that repair depends on amino acids, minerals, and anti-inflammatory signaling that come from consistent nourishment. When those inputs are inadequate, tissues do not fail dramatically, they weaken gradually, losing elasticity and resilience long before pain announces itself. Chronic low-grade inflammation alters how nerves perceive stress and how tissues respond to load. Poor dietary patterns elevate inflammatory mediators that sensitize pain receptors, making normal movement feel threatening. Over time, the shoulder became a messenger, not a victim, revealing a deeper metabolic imbalance. Collagen turnover slows when vitamin C, glycine, and adequate protein are lacking. Magnesium and omega fatty acids influence muscle relaxation and joint lubrication. Yet I had treated them as optional rather than foundational. The pain was not punishment, it was feedback. I also ignored how insulin resistance and poor circulation impair nutrient delivery to peripheral tissues. Joints and tendons are already poorly vascularized, meaning they depend heavily on efficient metabolic conditions to heal. When blood sugar remains unstable, micro-repair is delayed, and small strains accumulate into chronic dysfunction. I searched for relief where the pain lived, instead of where it was being generated. The shoulder taught me that symptoms are rarely accusations. They are requests for systemic change. Once nutrition, movement quality, and recovery were addressed together, pain no longer felt mysterious. It became understandable, even predictable, a biological signal asking for conditions that allow the body to restore itself, rather than merely endure daily stress. The most damaging nutrition mistake I made was not a lack of information, but a quiet disregard for consistency, believing that occasional effort could compensate for habitual neglect. I chased extremes because they felt productive, while ignoring the subtle power of daily alignment. Biology responds not to intensity, but to repetition. The body adapts to what it experiences most often, not what it encounters occasionally. Eating well for a week does little if the following months reinforce the opposite signal. Cells remodel themselves based on patterns, and hormones recalibrate according to predictable inputs. I underestimated how faithfully the body listens. Disregarding healthy eating habits also meant dismissing digestion, sleep timing, and meal rhythm as secondary concerns. Yet these details shape enzyme release, gut motility, and circadian hormone balance. When meals are erratic and nutrient poor, the body shifts into a defensive posture, conserving energy and increasing inflammation as a protective strategy. This is not failure. It is survival. Over time, that survival mode becomes the default state. What I once labeled aging was often adaptation to poor instruction. Nutrition is not about control, restriction, or perfection. It is about cooperation, when eating supports stable blood sugar, adequate protein, and micronutrient sufficiency. The body allocates resources toward repair rather than compensation. Muscles recover more efficiently. Immune responses become measured instead of exaggerated. And mental clarity improves as neural inflammation decreases. None of this requires dramatic intervention, only respect for biological rhythm and consistency. I learned too late that health is not built through isolated, correct decisions, but through an environment that makes the correct decision repeatable. The body is remarkably forgiving, but it is also precise. It responds exactly to what it is given most often, and it builds exactly what those signals ask for day after day.